I published a video just over a year ago. It was on the 30th of July 2022. It's about the very strange disappearance, death and finding of 14-year-old Noah Donohoe. At the time it had been requested, and although there were some big interviews from his mom, there weren't very much YouTube coverage on the case. So I covered this very, very strange case. Thanks to Noah's mom, Fiona, tirelessly campaigning and fighting to find out what happened, there's now loads of information out. There's lots of TV shows, there's documentaries coming out. It really has exploded in the news. And if you hadn't seen my previous video on it, I really do suggest you go back and watch it, because this is an update video, and if you haven't seen my first one, you won't get much from this video. So I'm about to give you the updates. The first few are very minor, the more of things around the case than the actual case itself, but then there is a major update, something that makes this case all the more confusing and mysterious, so just bear with it. August 2022. About the time that I published the first video on the case, Northern Ireland's new Secretary of State, Shailesh Vara, signed off a public interest immunity certification. That basically means information could be concealed during the coming inquest regarding the investigation. The Mayor of Derry City and the Strabane District, Sandra Duffy, said that she was going to write to Shailesh and advise him to reverse his decision. The Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, Michelle O'Neill, also raised concerns, stating that the public interest immunity should be withdrawn. The inquest was scheduled for the 28th of November 2022, and it was announced that a private hearing would be heard before then to discuss whether information in the police files could be withheld. On the 1st of September, a coroner vowed that the decision on whether to withhold police material from the inquest would be made with absolute independence and integrity. A week later, the public interest immunity was upheld because, and I quote, "disclosing information would create a real risk to the public interest." Let's bear in mind they're still saying that there's no foul play involved, so I find it very strange that you'd want to uphold any information. Although I do agree that there's more to it than that. It's not as straightforward as that, but let's face it, it doesn't look good. The judge, Mr. Justice Michael Humphreys, who is Northern Ireland's presiding coroner, said the redactions only relate to the ways in which the police handle and process intelligence information and identity of sources. The actual content of the intelligence information is not redacted at all, so the next of kin and the coroner will have a full picture of the information which was supplied to the police. Into October. Now, a long while back, the Public Prosecution Service dropped a corporate manslaughter charge against the Department of Infrastructure. Now remember, it was the Department of Infrastructure that was responsible for leaving the drain unlocked, the storm drain in which Noah was found. I don't know why these charges were dropped, but it was in October 2022 that the Public Prosecution Service decided to have another look. They were going to review the decision not to press charges. In regards to the inquest of the investigation, it was in October that the family legal representatives said, "We are exceptionally concerned about the date of the inquest, the amount of work that needs to be done, and the time allocated to the inquest." Then on the 27th of October, the coroner accepted, by application made by Noah's mom, Fiona, that a jury would be summoned for the inquest. After this, it all goes very quiet for several months. In December, the guy who stole Noah's bag was refused bail on the grounds that he'd probably go out and carry on committing offences. And the 44-year-old guy that had been harassing Fiona for 6 months were also in and out of court during this time. Fast forward a few months into the 2nd of March 2023, and the guy who was charged with stealing Noah's bag was sentenced to 15 months in custody with a similar period on licence. Now, if you're thinking, well, what about the inquest? Why have we gone straight to March? That's because the inquest keeps being pushed back, and in June 2023, the Belfast Telegraph reported, a lawyer said that the family of the schoolboy wanted all issues around the disclosure of police material in the case settled before the inquest took place. It was also in June that the guy who had been harassing Fiona for them 6 months pled guilty. Now, just to get this bit out of the way, let's skip forward to just a few days ago. At the beginning of August 2023, he was sentenced. His sentence was 75 hours of community service, 2 years of probation, and he was also issued a restraining order which prohibited him from using any social media for the next 5 years. So he can't use any social media account, any social media platform in any way for 5 years. The judge gave him them free rather than a 3-month prison sentence, saying that if he had the 3-month prison sentence, it would then be released without supervision. The judge went on to justify this by saying the man had mental health problems and they did contribute towards him making these disgusting posts. But mainly during the sentence that he's been given, he'd have to do programs. These could be work related, they could be drug or alcohol related, and by not sending him to prison, it would ensure that he was supervised for a lot longer. Let's not forget, if he went to prison, it'd be 3 months in prison, then back out on release, no supervision. So the judge is basically here, although it sounds like he's doing the guy a favour by not sending him to prison, he is actually doing Fiona a really good deed, because it's going to be a lot longer now before he can go back online and start abusing her. And if she does get any abuse from him within the next 5 years online, then he's broke the restraining order and they'll go to prison for breaking the restraining order. So I think that's fairly well placed. But let's go back to June, because it was in June when the big news broke. And prepare yourself, because if you think this case is already really strange, it's about to get a whole lot stranger. On the 18th of June 2023, a few days shy of 3 years since Noah went missing, it hit the headlines that more CCTV had been released. Now, back in the first video, I mentioned there were a lot of footage that the police either didn't obtain or the police weren't letting on to. But when I said that, I didn't quite mean this footage that's been released. The footage that we was on about was the footage after 5:30 on that Sunday evening, Sunday the 21st of June 2020. He set off from his house at 5:30 in the evening, and there's bits of footage missing from his journey after that point. There were lots of cameras that Fiona didn't see the CCTV footage for, but there should have been footage. However, this newly released CCTV footage is from the early hours, the morning before Noah went missing. Because it turns out that the day that Noah went missing, let's get this straight, Noah went missing at 5:30 in the evening. But that morning, 14 hours previous, Noah snuck out of the house. He's 14-year-old and he snuck out of the house at 3:30 in the morning, and then returned 35 minutes later after his unexplained trip that is a complete mystery. When he left the house, it was pouring down with rain. He was wearing a t-shirt, shorts and flip-flops. He was also carrying a pair of headphones. When he got back 35 minutes later, at 4:05 in the morning, just as dawn starting to break, it was captured on the CCTV, soaking wet through, without the headphones and without his flip-flops. When this was released, it had been nearly 3 years since this new footage had come out, and Fiona and her legal team had only just heard about it. Fiona said, "In the week while Noah was missing, PSNI officers asked me if Noah could have snuck out at any time from the apartment without my knowledge. I told them that there was only one key, and that all the doors are very squeaky. I would not have thought it likely, but I was obviously wrong." This revelation was brought to light by a team of crime experts who were conducting an independent investigation into Noah's case. Their work on the investigation is being crowdfunded. In fact, it was only at the beginning of August, a couple of days ago, that this crowdfunding target got reached. That target is £150,000 to create the investigation and to create a documentary about the case and about the investigation. To paraphrase the person leading the investigation, he said that this new footage basically backs up claims that the PSNI have only released a fraction of the CCTV that they acquired during the investigation. The last update I've got for you is from July 2023. A psychiatrist has submitted a report basically claiming that Noah might have unalived himself because he was distressed and struggling with his sexuality. Now, I think a lot of this comes around his fascination with Jordan Peterson, because when he went missing, he had a Jordan Peterson book in his bag. There are a lot of internet searches about Jordan Peterson, and the media says it's a very unusual obsession with him. And I don't really think it is. I used to idolise certain people and look up every quote I could when I was like age. And Jordan Peterson is the type of person that if you like him, if you like what he says, he's got a lot to say. You could spend a lot of time reading about him, reading about what he says, reading about what he thinks. So I don't necessarily think it went healthy. But either way, Noah's mom, Fiona, has refuted this psychiatrist's report, saying there is absolutely no evidence that I have ever been made aware of that Noah was confused about his sexuality. In fact, our dynamic as a family was always one of open discussion on all topics, including sexuality. And I can't really talk much about that because I haven't read the full report. I haven't even been able to find it. So I can't say that much about it, but it doesn't make much sense to me. I don't understand how being confused with his sexuality will lead him to be naked on an estate that he had no business being on, or why he'd end up climbing into a storm drain just to unalive himself. It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, I haven't read the report. As I said at the beginning of this, there is a lot of information that's now been pushed around, which is really great. There's lots of TV shows talking about it, there's a ton of YouTube videos, and so on. The reason that's great is because it's putting more pressure on everyone involved to open up, be a bit more transparent, show Fiona the files that she wants to see, that will give her peace of mind that this were just an accident with no foul play. And my heart has to go out to Fiona. As I said in the last one, it's now been 3 years and she's tirelessly pushing and fighting and leading protests for an explanation of what happened to Noah. It's so commendable, it's unbelievable. She must be such a strong person. And I do want to echo something that she shared and the police have shared. Especially at the time, there was a lot of speculation, there were a lot of rumours about what could have happened to Noah, and it was very damaging to any investigation from anybody. So again, I know in things like this, there's always YouTube channels that push things that aren't true, the clickbait and stuff like that. If you don't know it for fact, make sure that you outline that it's just a theory, and then don't go bothering Fiona with a theory. I'm fairly sure she's heard pretty much every one. And I still don't know what to think about this case. This new footage that's come forward, to me as a member of the public, I think it could either obviously be a really big clue, but obviously as well, it could be nothing. It could be completely unrelated and just a massive coincidence that it happened on the day that he went missing. It has spun out a lot more theories though. I've seen them online and I try not to read them because I don't want to affect the content that I'm putting out, because I try to make everything as factual as possible. But it has opened a very strange window for theories. And there you go. I'm not planning on updating you frequently about this. The reason I've done this update is because there's been big news, and I will always give you big news. But for little updates, like I said, we're about 6 months where there were nothing that came out. I hope it won't be another 6 months. I hope it won't be another year. I hope Fiona finds some answers, and soon. I believe there is answers. And if the police are that certain that there genuinely weren't any foul play, I don't understand why they can't just share it with Fiona. Even if they sign a secrecy letter or something first. A contract that says that you're not allowed to tell anybody else about this, but here's what happened. Surely that would make sense if this information is that damaging to the public. But I can't imagine an accident happening to a 14-year-old can be that damaging to the public. Unless something's been covered up. Unless someone's been protected in some way. There you go, that's all I've got for you. My massive, massive love goes out to Noah's family. I really do feel for his mom. What an incredible woman she's proven to be. All I'm saying is, I love you. Take care of yourself. Take care of those around you. Till next week. Bye.